have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school, and she's in special education. And I'm most afraid to lose the special education services provided through the schools. The increased class sizes have caused problems this year for her. She is failing every class. She has a required course this year that is not team taught this year. She has a 0. She has no idea what's going on in that class at any time. She struggles emotionally, and because she's never had the success, she becomes very depressed. And the more depressed she becomes, the less she achieves, and it's a horrible cycle. The school, as far as the teachers themselves, have been fantastic. It's above them. You know, there's no money to bring in more aides or more teachers or reduce the class sizes. I'm afraid that she's never going to get to feel success, and then she's going to be put into the adult world never having known how to be successful, because everything, it seems, some days feel like everything is stacked against her.
We have already lost SAGE funding for our school district this year, which the SAGE funding reduces class sizes in grades kindergarten through 3rd grade. So our class sizes have grown, and I work at a low-income school. 2/3 of the class are like really, really low skills, the lowest I have seen in my years of teaching. It takes longer to get through every lesson, so they don't get to do some of the things, especially when they're at that young age. They need so many, turns, they need the practice, they need the attention, and it's not available to them. It's very disheartening, and it breaks my heart to go into the classroom and their little 5-year-old faces, and I, will give so many turns, and then they'll look at me like, but I didn't get a turn. And I'm like, I have to, explain, well, sometimes we just watch other people get a turn, and sometimes they'll watch you get a turn. It leads to lower success rates for our students overall, and it just builds. It's like a domino effect. They'll go on to 1st grade with lower skills, and it just keep on going.
I am concerned about cuts to music and the arts, because that's what students who might struggle academically, that's how they find their niche. That's what really brings them to school and makes them shine and helps them with their self-esteem and just to find something they do well at. Their self-esteem grows. They just feel so much better about themselves, and they grow so much. If they feel good about that, then they'll want to do better in other things, because they might have that hanging over them that if they don't do well in their basic classes, that they won't be able to participate in the other activities. And it gets them at school. I mean, if they don't have that club or the music or the art class, they may not come at all.
I have twin grandsons. They are 3 years old, and one of them has been diagnosed as mildly autistic. Chase is able to participate in a program where he gets individual attention with speech therapy because he does not talk like his brother. We're hoping that by the time he goes to kindergarten, 1st grade, that he can actually be with his twin. The problem is every time you pick up the newspaper, this is one of the programs they talk about cutting, because 3-year-olds don't have big voices. So we, as grandparents and parents, have to be the ones that speak for them. And it scares me to death, to be honest, because he has 2 brothers. Now I'm going to get emotional. They're very smart. Chasey's smart, but Chasey can't express that the way they do. And I'm just afraid that he's going to get left behind. And this world is too tough to be able to deal with those kinds of issues if you don't get the opportunities.
You talk about taking your child to work day. Wouldn't it be great if we could take our parents to school for a day and have the parent be there and see what the classroom is like, what the atmosphere is like, what the instruction is like in the classroom, because things have changed. I think in order for them to relate to their own child, they have to understand how their children are being taught. And I think they also need to see how rapidly things are changing in the classroom. so that they grasp the significance of the expenses that sometimes school districts have. You know, we have a fantastic physics teacher here, and he was one of the first people to use a smart board. And the things that you can do in physics with a smart board are just unbelievable. And kids can rerun experiments over and over and over using the smart board, and parents need to see that. They need to see how this type of experience gives their child an opportunity to progress once they're beyond the high school.
I want to see community members do more volunteer work in the classroom so that they have a better understanding of what's going on. They'd see kids struggling, they'd see kids not paying attention, they'd see children that are hostile. Even in 2nd and 3rd grade, they're hostile toward life. I've volunteered for the last 12 years in 3rd grade. I worry about my 3rd graders who don't know where they're going home at night. Is tonight mom's night, or is it dad's night, or is this the night I go to grandma's? It's so unstable. What can they count on? Sometimes it's school that they count on. Put in some time in school. I would hope that it gives them a better understanding that school is not like it was when they were in school.
The parents should have control, I believe, over how the schools are run. They have to be involved. And parent involvement is the key to student success in my book. And unfortunately, that's just not true with all students. It's hard for parents to be involved because they work. And they get home at night and the last thing they want to do is go to a school function and be one of many. But today, bringing the schools online, which we've done here in Superior, we just started the program, and a lot of other districts are doing it. Parents should be able to log in and be able to see their students' work in a secure environment. They can participate in discussions. All of this is this capability is there today. Parents become very involved with their students, and they start to communicate with the teacher and with other students, depending upon how the websites are designed. They can do it on their own time and fit it in. So that's how you get a parent involved, make it easier for them. Businesses have been doing it for 20, 30 years. Educators are not.
Students are individuals. They're all so different. They learn so differently. They take in knowledge so differently. They express it back to us as teachers so differently. We as teachers have to, if we're good, if we're effective, have to constantly adapt to each and every student and what level they're at, and how fast they're learning or how slow they are and where their passion is taking them. And if they go off on a tangent, helping them keep that love of learning alive.
I think a good teacher can make subjects fun. Like, I mean, not all fun and games, like you get no work done, but like it's fun where you want to do it. Because I know in my social studies class, every single day it seems like we have an activity and it ties into what our curriculum, what we're learning about. Well, right now in my social studies class, we're learning about ancient Egypt. And one of the things they did I learned that they document their history and stuff. They write on these like little kind of charms, and they write it all down. We made one of those for our locker. The best teachers can incorporate fun activities, because when there's a fun activity involved, students are more eager to learn, and then they're participating and they're asking questions and they're paying attention and they're doing their work.
I think we have to take into account that children do learn differently. And not everybody can sit in a seat and take a standardized test or a regular test, but we need to make sure that we're testing what's important. So I want to check what they know on patterns. If I gave them a sheet of paper and said to color the patterns or whatever, that would work for some of the children, but I think that if you had alternative things, they had manipulatives, little teddy bears, and they could show a pattern. Because I think sometimes you're restricting what they know by giving them what they have. So one child, for example, I said, that's not a pattern. He said, oh, sure it is. He said, look, it's bear laying down, bear standing up. Well, he had red, blue, green, orange. And I said, "Oh, you're right." And he said, "That's an A-B pattern." One group of my students had them get in a line. They said, "Look, we're a pattern." So they didn't even use the materials on the floor. They started using themselves.
I like a portfolio approach where you're seeing the subjects integrated in maybe a project-based learning environment. I'm not a big fan of standardized testing. I don't think that report cards are always the most accurate way to talk about student achievement. And I think I want to know what my students are doing throughout the year, how they're changing, how they're growing, how they're hitting certain measurements and benchmarks, but not necessarily a number or a letter grade. The only drawback is it's a lot more work for our teachers who are already so overworked, but I think it's more representative of the students' actual performance and achievement.